God bless you all. Wait for a couple people to jump on. We'll get started. A lot going on in the world, I know. All right, so I titled this WW3 will be on everyone's lips. We're coming into a time here pretty soon when things are going to escalate to a point where people begin to see that a world war has begun. I think people may become fearful that automatically, uh, nuclear missiles are going to be striking every major city and that sort of thing. But I think we've got a process to get to that point. I don't think that's the beginning of it. I won't be surprised to see nuclear weapons used, but I think the initial exchanges will be pretty limited because there's a bigger agenda at play that I've been talking about. But I want to share a couple of dreams with you first. In one dream recently, I was talking to my dad, and um, he he was asking me about Putin, and I told him that I had a conversation with Putin recently, and I told him that Putin said that the that war with the United States was both inevitable and planned. And I asked him when it would begin, and he said, in many ways, it already has. In many ways, it already has. What you're seeing happening is a planned event. Many of you know that all of these things are set up and orchestrated in order to create certain outcomes. There's several outcomes in this agenda that they want to create. One is to create a division in the world so certain alliances can be formed. The Magog alliance needs to be put together, and that I think happens most likely because of a shared enemy, which is the U.S. Um, because Babylon will need to be destroyed at some point. The other agenda, though, the one I've been telling you about, is financial reset. This is the largest agenda at play. They need to create a lot of fear in order to get people to accept what's coming. And some of that fear will be created through war, probably through nuclear weapons, definitely through economic warfare, definitely through cyber attacks. But there is coming, I believe it will be this year, a financial reset. The dollar will lose its world reserve currency status, and in its place will be a digital currency. Each country is going to roll out their own digital currency, and then those currencies will be exchanged on ledgers that move through a crypto system, a crypto based system that's going to be implemented this year. And so you're seeing many moves in order to make that happen. Most of what you're seeing right now is for that very agenda. I'm telling you this because I want you to be prepared for that. I don't want it to catch you by surprise because if you keep all your money in dollars, then you're going to feel the most pain during all of this. Not that God can't provide, He certainly will provide for His children, no doubt. But it would also be wise to do some things to be positioned ahead of time before this takes place. I would recommend moving some of your money. Well, I guess I can't recommend it technically. I'm not a financial advisor. But if I were you, I would put some money into cryptocurrencies that are on the ISO 20022 list. If I were you, I would Google that and I would look to do that. And I would probably house them offline because of cyber attacks. That's what I would do. I would also look at holding commodities such as gold and oil, wheat, things like that, because we know that according to the Bible, as the black horse rides, there are major increases in the pricing of those things. So if you hold some of those things, then as the price goes up, the amount of money that you'll have access to also increases with them so that you're not losing your buying power to get the things that you need. I've also had shared with me recently um, an interpretation of a dream that I had about free bread from 2023 to 2024. That this is referring to the fact that there will be a famine that will hit next year in 2023, and you may see the beginnings of that toward the end of this year. I'm not sure, but it will hit next year. So, in my opinion, it would be wise to also have some dried foods on hand if you can. Um, Having some dried foods and water, I think, is probably just uh, just wisdom. I mean, God can turn 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish into a meal that will feed 5,000. No doubt, miracles will happen during all of this, but it might be wise to have yourself positioned correctly. So, anyway, as you begin to hear the World War rhetoric pick up, as this begins to um, come across the headlines and starts to be the topic of conversation on everyone's lips, don't lose track of two things. Watch what's happening behind the scenes, behind the distractions. What is happening to the financial system? Watch that. And secondly, don't lose sight that God is the one in control of it all at the end of the day. He's the one directing all of it at the end of the day, and He will protect and care for His children. So, as the WW3 rhetoric picks up, don't lose trust in the one who will be caring for you. Number one. Number two, watch the real agenda, watch the financial system. The second thing I wanted to mention, I had a dream where so my dad was a preacher, for many years. Growing up, he had, a series of churches, he used to plant churches. Anyway, in this dream, I saw him preaching. He was standing at the pulpit, and all of the church was, they weren't paying attention. They were like singing Disney songs or something. And then he called me up to the pulpit. And when I walked up there, a hush went over the room. I could feel the Holy Spirit. Um, his presence became so thick. And then I began to preach. And I think the dream was referring to this. I think what we are watching happening in the church is um, a transfer of position and a transfer of authority to those who are the next generation, those who have been prepared for this time. You know, there were the last generation, a lot of them, they did their job. They did what they were put here for. And their job for a lot of them is complete, and some of them are going to be taken home soon. I keep being shown that over and over again, that some of the last generation who completed their job, they're going to be taken home soon. And there's going to be a transfer of position and authority to the next generation who's been prepared for this time. And God's Spirit is going to move with them. There's going to be something that happens in the church, and I've seen this so many different ways. I'll share a couple of visions about it with you. But there was a move from the church singing these Disney songs to suddenly a hush overwhelming the room. And it was a pronounced change in attitude, where something happened that caused the church to suddenly become serious about their business. You see, the way the church has got to change. The structure of the church is going to change. The judgments that are coming on the world right now, the birth pangs. I'm not talking about the Great Tribulation, but the birth pangs that we're here for. They aren't just for the judgment of the world, but they are also for the purification of God's people. God's people are going to have to become serious about business. I saw a vision in which I saw a man holding two large golden cups of wine. And he was trying to drink both of these cups at the same time, and the wine was spilling out down his shirt. And I knew that one cup was representative of things of this world. The other cup was representative of the things that God wanted to give. But because he was trying to drink from both of them, he couldn't really get the wine from either. It was spilling out, and I knew that the man represented the church. A lot of God's church, his body, are trying to drink both the cup from the world and also his cup. And so it is a mercy. It is his mercy to begin to remove the cup of the world so that we can take in what he really wants to get. And it's going to be a painful and an uncomfortable process. Many of you have already gone through a lot of that process over the years, just in the waiting for his return. He's used that to prepare and purify many people, but there are a lot of people who have not yet gone through the fire, and they will also be purified. The removing of the cup of Babylon is going to allow for his body to take in what he really wants to give. When I saw this vision, the verse that I heard was the verse used both in Revelation, I think chapter 18, at the destruction of Babylon, and it's also used in Jeremiah, I think chapter 51, at the destruction of Babylon. And in both of those verses, just before the destruction of Babylon, the cry is, "Come out of her, my people." He says, "Come out of her, my people, so that you don't share in her judgments." So there is a process of removing his people from the systems of Babylon, or removing the systems from his people, removing that chalice from the lips of his people. That is the call right before the destruction of Babylon. That is the cry for this period of time. And so that is the next phase of the church. That's the next time that we're about to enter, is the time of that cry, come out of her, my people. The other vision I had was I saw the walls of the church buildings disintegrating, falling apart. And I saw people running two different directions. I saw people running both away from the church. That was most of them, actually, probably 80% or more were running away from the buildings. And then the lesser amount of people all ran to like the center of the city, and they were gathering together. And I think what God is saying is there's going to be a series of events that causes this current church model that we built to be taken down so that he can do a new thing. But it's also going to be a separation time of those, a separation between those who are playing church and aren't making him the center of their lives, and those who are. Those who aren't are going to run away from it because it's going to be too hard. It's only going to be those who are willing to give up the things of this world in order to get what he wants to give that will run toward him, that will continue to gather together. It's a separation of those two types. I don't think that'll be a very easy time. However, I think what is available to the people that really still go after him, even though it becomes so difficult, will absolutely be worth it. They're going to receive so much of him. The outpouring will be so thick that those who make that choice absolutely will not regret that choice. Those who run away for the systems of the world, they're going to find themselves in a position where they have neither. They will have neither him nor the things of the world. It will all get stripped away. This world is going to turn to sand. And if you're not holding on to him, then you'll simply be taken down with it. I once had a vision, one of the most important visions I think I've ever had. Well, I feel like it was really defining to my understanding of the times. Was I saw everyone on a beach, and the sand of the beach began to fall away down into the ocean, and everyone began to run away. It was the world that everyone was in was collapsing. And a Bible appeared in my hand, and I began to use the Bible to claw my way up the sand. And then at the top of the sand dune was an ark. So while everyone was being plunged into the ocean as the sand was falling away, I was able to climb my way up to the ark. It was only by holding on to Christ, it was only by holding on to God that I was able to stand. The rest of the world fell away, and that's the way it'll be. The shaking is here, and it's going to get more intense. It's only those who are holding on to Christ who will stand. So, anyway, I love you all, and I plan to see you soon. If not here, then in the air. God bless.